Hello, everyone. Scott Caraccioli coming from the Caraccioli Cellars tasting room in downtown Carmel by the Sea. We are located in the central area of California, right south of Monterey Bay. We grow all of our grapes in the Santa Lucia Highlands, which is a very optimal area to grow Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Tell you a little bit about my family, a little bit about our history and what got us into making wine and growing grapes. And also we'll dive into a couple wines that we make that I really feel exemplify who we are as a winery and what our focus is. I'm a fifth generation Swiss Italian agricultural farmer. Most all of my family grows lettuce, asparagus, celery, broccoli, cauliflower, and the like in the Salinas Valley on the floor below where we grow all of the grapes, which is on the inland side of the coastal foothills of the Santa Lucia Highland Mountain Range. On the valley floor, we have a lot of row crop agriculture. That's historically what my family's done. And really, that's optimal for the climate that we have, the soil type, the water that we have present from the Salinas River. And above that on the benches is really what excited my family into planting 124 acres of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and ultimately utilizing that fruit to make vintage method Champenois sparkling wine. That's probably the main thing that we do that's different from most of my peers in the area. And it's just one of those projects that was really bred out of passion, bred out of ability. And when my father and uncles decided to plant this property, at the same time, my family met Michel Salg, who had recently retired from Roederer Estate. He was sent here from Champaign to start Roederer Estate into Anderson Valley and had done it for about 30 years. And upon his retirement, he was really looking for what would be his passion project moving forward. And meeting my family, they had a real symbiotic view on what that would look like. For my father and my family, it was, we don't want to make concessions. We want to do everything the best possible way that we can from our site with what's in our backyard. And for Michelle, that was all the idiosyncratic dialing in of process that really defines us as a winery and makes it the guideline for us from year to year, time to time. And it's something that we won't waver from as time goes on. We will perfect, we'll hone in. But in general, the framework that Michelle set up for us is something that really delineates who we are from a viewpoint of making sparkling wine. Everything's going to be vintage. Everything is going to be method Champenois. It's going to showcase the Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay. We do have some bottlings that are coming up that are single Chardonnay Blanc de Blanc or single Pinot Noir Blanc de Noir. But in general, we feel that on most cases, having a blend of both of them showcases the really amazing area that we are able to grow grapes, which is the Santa Lucia Highlands, right in the middle, essentially, of Monterey County. We have a great wind tunnel that comes pulled from Monterey Bay, which is immensely deep, and it creates a suction that pulls wind down the valley from the north to the south, all the way down towards Paso Robles. And what that does for us is has an influence that creates pretty amazing acid structure throughout the wines, as well as optimal phenolic ripeness at 19 brix. And being that we are making a sparkling wine every year, vintage dated, the ability to get to really great sugar accumulation and brix levels with imbalanced acidities right around 19 brix, 10 total acidity, maybe like 2.95, 3 pH. We're able to tell the story of where I grew up, where I'm from, which is Monterey County, our backyard, really an area of growers, and wanting to showcase that in kind of a relatively naked light. The first wine showcases the sparkling play. We also make still wines. and we're going to taste a rosé of Pinot Noir as we're moving into summer. It's a great summer wine, and our sparkling press actually really lends itself to making still rosé. But first, we're going to jump into our focus. Sparkling Caraccioli Cellars 2014 Brut Cuvée. This wine is 60% Chardonnay, 40% Pinot. Everything's pressed at night. Everything is pressed only to 120 gallons a ton. So very, very, very light extraction, which really ensures that we get the optimal heart juice of each grape, and we don't have over extraction adding to off phenolics that might not be ideally present in a lower bricked wine. And we want to be always cognizant of making sure that our wines are in balance, that they're showcasing the terroir that we want. So 2014, obviously we are aging on these for a while. This is current vintage. So we're pressing in our Cocard Gravity press, as I said, at 120 gallons a ton, vinifying dry in stainless, and then maybe seeing a little bit of oak depending on the lot to really round out the acidity and integrate the cuvee. Once the wine is ready to go to bottle, it is staged, blended back into vat. It'll go entourage for 4 years. Then we'll do dosage and disgorgement. And I usually leave them on the liquor after dosage for about a year. Really wanting the overall dosage as well as the main cuvee to have a symbiotic marriage where they're one and they're coming together and completely cohesive. And that we feel happens for the Brut right around 10 months, maybe as many as 14, 16. Every vintage isn't the same. We'll taste them. We'll see exactly where we're at. And when that wine is ready, we'll release it. Both our Brut Cuvée as well as our Brut Rosé start with the same base blend, which is 40% Pinot Noir, 60% Chardonnay. Our Brut Cuvée, which is this wine here, definitely showcases the Chardonnay aspects and nuances more so than the Pinot Noir. And that's really, I feel, due to the dominance and the alluvial soils that we have going through our vineyard. It picks up some of the minerality, some of the chalk, as well as the citrus, and it really dominates the palate, as well as also having some of that brioche undertone that really comes from that 4 years on lees, the aging, the ability to get the autolytic characteristics that you can only achieve through method champenois aging and really making something that's clean, not cutting corners, trying to deliver the best possible wine that we can, and having a persistent mousse where even, years later, you're getting a firm bubble bead all the way from the beginning to the end, a nice pronounced mousse to where you're going to have the aromatics jump up and express themselves in a way that's really true to terroir. This wine drinks bone dry. The dosage is a little bit higher than bone dry, but that's just as a position of balance because we have so much structure of acidity due to the wind prevalence in our valley. So getting back to that really dialed in experience where you have fruit, acid, and autolytic characteristics really coming together and showcasing the terroir, that the place, the vintage, all of the things that make wine great, whether it's still wine or sparkling wine, but utilizing it through a sparkling wine lens. Delicious. Really happy with that vintage. It's 50% our own vineyard, which is a Skoll. In 2012, we started integrating some of our fruit. 13, we were about a third our own fruit. 14, half. 15, 100%. So this is the last step before we went fully estate for our sparkling wines. Our still wines went fully estate in 14. and getting to showcase and share with you another wine that I think really just puts the fruit and the optimal ripeness that you're able to achieve in the Santa Lucia Highlands on display in a way that's not normal, in that most people just view Santa Lucia Highlands as a still red wine Pinot Noir area or Chardonnay. And to me, rosé is one of those wines when you make it with really great structure, really clean, not declassified grapes, you're able to showcase that Pinot Noir character in a little bit different of a light. We bottle our still Pinot Noir actually in 500 milliliters, and these are all in Flint. This is the 2019 vintage. It's a very, as you can kind of see, very pale pink, little bit of salmon color throughout. The reason for that is we utilize our sparkling wine press when we got into the ideas of making rosé, and that really being something that my family wanted to pursue. Michelle and I looked for what would be the best process for us and how we could go about it. And we had our reservations the first year we made it. And we actually only had 100 cases, and we weren't sure we were going to bottle it. And after it had completely fermented dry, Michelle and I tasted it, and the only problem was we didn't even have enough to include it in our wine club because it was only 100 cases. So I ended up looking for 500 milliliter bottles and found some stateside, and that really gave us the opportunity to include it in our wine club and share it with everybody. And then putting it in a 500 and bottling it that way really became bigger than I ever anticipated. Our wine club members love it that way. It's a great aperitif wine. You get all of the flavors of melon, strawberry, some of the citrus notes throughout. It's just bright and expressive. It does the watermelon note through as well. And having that bright, expressive fruit really gives an aperitif wine, or a wine that you're going to pair with your first course, something that can sit next to you while you're at the barbecue, cooking the steaks, and then open the red wine with that. It has that versatility, and it has the versatility to age and continue to get complex with age as it goes on and not become tired due to the acid structure that we have throughout. These wines are picked at night, also completely direct to press wines, pressed the same way we make the base wines for the sparkling, so 120 gallons a ton, which gives us that clean fruit, that heart juice, that expression, just a little bit more ripe than in a sparkling wines, but in that same vein, showcasing the really clean, crisp, bright, enjoyable Pinot Noir fruit that we have here in the Santa Lucia Highlands. It's been a real pleasure sharing my family's wines and our history, staying committed to everything that we stand for and want to achieve in winemaking. It's always about quality, not about quantity. We intend to stay a relatively small winery, focusing mostly on sparkling wines, as well as the few varietal offerings that we'll have of Chardonnay, Pinot, and maybe a little bit of Syrah in the future. Thanks, everyone, and hear from Caraccioli Cellars in downtown Carmel by the Sea. Cheers.